have something technical unifies this train that will pass from Oman to north of Kuwait without any interruption in the middle of construction. I noticed personally last year when this project was provided to the municipal council to approve it, the decision makers, they were not aware of the project that is in the state of implementing in the neighboring country. The Saudi Arabia started the project, the UAE started the project, Qatar, they started the project, and this year, it seems a few months ago, Oman started their own project too. So we supposed to be aware, at least the consultant who participated in the design, the concept design, the initial design, and the construction. He's supposed to at least communicate with the whole countries. So shouldn't we have unified specifications, at least a board for GCC Railway before starting right now, although we need it now? This is my first point, because this will reduce the life cycle cost of the whole project, especially the maintenance, operating, and the construction. The second point, I think, John, is very important since you mentioned the climate issues, and one of them is humidity. I would suggest if you focus on corrosion. So look for corrosion protection system and coating systems for those. Corrosion is one of the major issues in our countries. I'm telling about Kuwait, I'm sure it is in UAE too and Qatar. So we are all coastal countries. That's why this will cost you a lot in the maintenance. So I advise you to select the proper materials and proper coating systems. And for Khamis, I think it's very important. You mentioned good things that Kuwait is the active government model for other infrastructure and transport systems, but not for the railway. And I think it's unfortunate for Kuwait, after 10 years, going through the railway systems and the concept designs and going back and forth to outsource everything regarding this mega projects. At least we're supposed to have some experiences, local experiences, to do at least the concept, the initial designs, which are not available based on my experience till last year. And the metro station, as I mentioned at the beginning, since we have new cities, it's very important to start with the metro cities now. So it takes 2 years to construct it, so it will go in parallel while we construct the new cities in north and south.
Thank you, Mr. So the first question,
So yes, your point definitely is true. We do have common guidelines for institutional, for operation and design, so that we assure or make sure that yes, the project is well implemented. The 6 member states, and we have developed in the GCC SG those common guidelines. GCC member states are committed to those common guidelines, and we do have this GCC Railway Committee, the expert working group. We are following up with the project and making sure that yes, each country is implementing the project based on these common guidelines. So definitely yes, the project will be integrated in whole countries.
Can I just add? Well, one of the things that the Ministers of Transport meeting in Doha in November, I think it was, demanded was an update of the schedules from each of the GCC countries for their parts of the GCC mainline network. And the reason for that is because when this was initially conceived, the schedule was for all of the GCC countries to have completed the construction and to be ready for operation by the end of 2018. For numerous reasons, that's not going to happen. We all know that timescale is no longer feasible. As you say, some countries are further ahead than others. So what the GCC Secretariat are doing is playing a very important coordination role by requiring, as instructed by the ministers, each of the countries now to provide an updated best estimate schedule of when they are going to be completed with their parts of the railway, so it can be properly integrated. there's no point in one country reaching the border if the other one's going to be there in 5 years' time. So it has to be properly integrated, and there are the various governance arrangements from the Ministers of Transport and Ministers of Finance down to these expert working groups, which does include Kuwaiti representation. So it shouldn't be a surprise to Kuwait that these things are actually going on and that coordination is taking place.
So there's lots of questions, lots of hands going up, and I'm going to limit the questions perhaps to one, maybe two, but perhaps not three. So, gentlemen at the back, please.
I'd like to ask the panel, is there a specific tipping point you should make with regard to Metro, a specific tipping point you should make the government actually press the button to say go on Metro? And please feel free to use historical examples.
Any comment? Would you like to answer
Do you mean when does Metro make sense?
Correct.
I'll tell you, I have some wonderful photos from 110 years ago in New York, where they just took a leap of faith and they built this. At that time, New York had the densest population in the world in Lower Manhattan. Everybody was within walking distance of the docks, needle trades, whatever they were doing. And they wanted to develop the city. And the only way to develop the city was to have more workers. Well, more workers couldn't walk 5 miles to work every day, so private developers actually went and said, we're going to build a metro because we need them. And they built, I've got photos of these trains that are built out in farm country. And just, they're cows all around the metro. It was just built out. And you can't even take those pictures anymore because it's so densely populated all around. So, you mentioned planning, but in fact, building a metro will generate development. And you go anywhere in the world where they built metro, and you're going to see 40 stories. These buildings are going to go. Where you build a metro is where the city will grow, because it is the way future generations they want to get around. You can't put more cars. I mean, I've been here for a couple of days now, and I spent a lot of time in a car because the traffic here is already bad, and you can't put more cars on the road. But you want to grow. You want to have more people in Kuwait, more people in the city, and you want to be able. People need mobility, so you need another mode. Where you put the transit is where people will go, where people will live.
So, i.e. for Kuwait, it's now, and we're already late, right?
Well, it puts you in very good company.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
If you look at Europe as a sort of philosophy in certain Anglo-Saxon versus the sort of Latin countries, one is, particularly say France, they plan ahead, they build infrastructure ahead of the demand in order that they can control the development of the city. In the UK, it's the other way around. They would basically wait till people are screaming and then try and solve the problem. Now, there's no right or wrong. One you attend to, you're building and investing money ahead of schedule. There's others you are meeting the demand. Going back to the point earlier about new cities, it's fundamentally important. If you're going to build new cities and you're going to have a public transportation system, do that together. Don't try and build a city and say, when it gets really crowded, I'll build a metro or a bus network. Because by then the city is developed, it's evolved, and then it's very much harder to do that. Building it's expensive, it's disruptive, so build it with a plan, do it early. And then people will, of course, evolve as developers.
Thank you, Steve. Next question, please. I think the gentleman is holding the microphone.
My name is Khalid. In 1972, I was in Paris at night walking in the street. So I find a lift, as I said. Well, I use it. I found myself inside one garage, which was the road and over it. So we can use the spaces of these huge spaces which you will use it for the metro and the train. Can we use it for car park, for garages? This proposal, 1978, I wanted to talk about it in one meeting we had in Engineering Society, but they didn't give me chance. I want to tell them that time there was engineer Abdul Salam Shaib, Abdul Aziz Al Adsani. I was young, they didn't give the chance, they gave the all people. Second, please, you said you will use telecommunication towers out there who will cooperate with you. Please don't let them to cooperate with you. There are hazards. They have casing cancer, leukemia, this transportation aerial antenna, and all are lying, all most reports coming from there, all bullshit. Second, please don't use high tension current beside your railway. Also that's affecting the passengers. One thing else about Kuwait, احنا في الكويت, we are in Kuwait, we have also, as I said, Mustafa, بلدي. احنا لازم نشتغل على طريقنا، احنا الان لازم نفتح الخط، نشتغل على طريق الحديد، طريق الحديد بس نتسمع فيه، لازم نفتح خطوطنا على طريق الحديد، نفتح خطوط سكك حديديه على دول شرق اسيا، روسيا، غرب اسيا، على اساس احنا نصير مركز تجاري. فالان احنا قاعد نشتغل، جماعه قاعد تشتغل بالسكيتي او شيء، لازم احنا نشتغل. ليش في دول الان هم تحاربنا على اساس احنا نصبح مينا تجاري كبير. انا اختراع وغيره اخترع وانا اخترع ان مينا موبيال نسوي مينا حر مفتوح بدون فيزا، يدخل اي واحد. فلكه مينا جزيره فلكه تصبح هوتيلات ريسورسز وتبدا الحركه التجاريه. والله موفق. عاشت من الكويت.
Unfortunately, I didn't get all of that. I apologize. Thank you for your comments. Please,
my name is Haifa Al-Musa. I'm from Bukamsin International Contracting Company. My question is to Mrs. Sorry? Yeah. Well, you said that I assume that there is no benchmark to measure the demand in Kuwait concerning the public transportation, especially when it comes to metro or to rail. However, I would like to ask whether to do a marketing study where there is questionnaire for publics and their willingness to use the public transportation will do in that case. This is one question. The way I see it, what they call it, an educational campaign, it would do miracles in Kuwait, because Kuwaitis usually very much affected with the media, and that will change, the way of thinking when it comes to public transportation. And from my own experience, I know that Kuwaitis, when they travel abroad, especially in Europe, everybody are going to use the metro. There's absolutely no problem. So my question is a marketing study will do something, a result that is reliable or not in that case?
Yeah, it is very common to do what's called a travel demand model. So it's essentially a computer model of the whole city, but you do get information from real people in the city. They can do it online, or you stop them in their cars and say, "You're in a car, where are you going?" And if it took 15 minutes to go by train, would you take a train? If it costs $2 to go by train, would you take a train? You ask a lot of different questions that helps you tease out what the preference is. It's called a state of preference study, what these people are likely to do under scenarios in the future. And you can take data from this travel demand modeling has been done in other cities. I spent most of this year in the holy city of Medina, and we're doing in early stages doing exactly that. So yeah, there are tools, but you don't have a full network of metro anywhere yet in the Middle East. And you don't have metros where it gets very, very hot. And people might have to walk long distances. So there are a lot of questions. It's the right thing to do. Government can take that risk, and government can take the measures to make it a good risk. It's a hard risk to put on a contractor. You say you work for a contractor, are you going to build and have your income come from revenues that you're not controlling? No. The government should take that risk, but it's a smart risk. It's a calculated, it's a smart way to go. If you want the city to grow, that is the answer.
Thank you. I still see lots of questions, and I think the gentleman in front of you would like to answer. We have a little bit more time for questions.
Okay.
الأخت من الجي سي سي، أولا هناك حديث عن جسر بين قطر والبحرين. هل سيمر القطار عبره أم سيمر عبر الحدود السعودية باتجاه قطر؟ تكلمت عن 250 مليار دولار. هذا مبلغ ضخم. لا راح يجيبون المال العام ولا ضرائب ولا مصادر أخرى للتمويل. ضرائب طريق، حماية البيئة، رفع الدعم، ضرائب الدخل، غيرها من التمويلات موجودة. هل ستدعون لكتاب عام؟ مشاركة مال أجنبي، ضمانات، إجراءات، استثمار، هالأمور هذه كلها مهمة جدا على الأقل نعرفها كمواطنين. أخونا أيضا تكلم عن قضية مهمة، قضية سرعة القطارات، وأنا صراحة فوجئت فيها. قطار النقل بين 120 كيلو إلى 200 كيلو للركاب، الناس قاعد تتكلم الآن عن البولت يعني فيز، ونتكلم عن 350 إلى حوالي 550 كيلو. الآن بعد العمر هذا كله تركبون بعربانة تمشي 200 كيلو أو 150 كيلو، أعتقد صعب على الأقل نبي التكنولوجيا المتقدمة هذه. هل هناك خطة مصاحبة لتقليل عدد السيارات واندفاعنا نحو ما يسمى بالهايبريد كارز الموجودة أو سيارات إلكتريك كم مقاطرة مقطورة يمكن إزاحتها من شوارعنا مقابل تفعيل قطارات البضائع؟ كم سنوفر مقابل ما استثمرنا في القطارات؟ كم بيت خبرة عربي كويتي خليجي يمثل مثل الناس هذول الموجودين يطلعوا الآن أصحاب الخبرة من الناس اللي مثل أخوي عبد اللطيف، الإخوان الموجودين اللي مسؤولين فيهم كلهم، في الدكتور علي الشملان، زين الناس هذه كلها أصحاب خبرات، اليوم ما طلعوا تقاعد الآن احنا ما استفدنا منهم. كان ممكن بسهولة الدولة هذه ودول الخليج كافة تبني بيوت خبرات من خلال العقول التي خرجت من النظام الحكومي واتجهت إلى التقاعد. أخيرا أنا أعتقد أنها بحاجة إلى جامعات متخصصة، خلينا نقول مالتي ديسبلينري أو انتر ديسبلينري بروجرام لما يسمى بالببليك ترانسبورتيشن، طرق، السلامة العامة، الفاينانسنج، المانجمنت، لكن له علاقة فقط في قضايا النقل الجماعي حتى بما فيها حوادث الطرق الموجودة المرتبطة بهذا النوع من النقل الجماعي. شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you. Didn't get the other number of points. I don't think so.
I think I will speak here.
Please.
طبعا مسألة عن الاستثمارات أكيد احنا حاطين هذا الشيء في الحسبان، عشان كذا احنا عملنا عقدنا ورش عمل، عقدنا مؤتمرات ضخمة تتكلم عن فرص الاستثمارية وعن وين الفرص القطاع الخاص ممكن يشارك فيها. طبعا احنا لما تكلمنا عن هذا العدد من 250 مليار دولار تشمل كل مش بس مشروع سكة الحديد بس باقي المشاريع كمان. طبعا انا جبت معايا كوبيز من التوصيات المؤتمرات الثلاثه اللي احنا عقدناها السنه اللي فاتت عن الفرص الاستثماريه. احنا صراحه الحين يعني كل الدول المجلس فعلا تبغى تشجع الاستثمار العام، استثمار القطاع الخاص والفرص الاستثماريه وكيف انه ممكن يكون في ما بين استثمار اجنبي ومحلي. فاحنا الحين ننتظر صراحه نسمع من القطاع الخاص هو ايش كيف ممكن يشارك، ايش مثلا التحديات اللي بتواجهه، لانه احنا فعلا في الامانه العامه بننسق مع الدول الاعضاء ونرفعها حتى لاعلى مستويات، حتى الى يعني مستويات وزاريه، وزاره الماليه، وزاره المواصلات، انه ايش في مشاكل بتواجهكم عشان احنا ممكن نحلها ساعتها، او ايش فرص ممكن انه يشاركوا في الاستثمارات. بالنسبه لانه
قطار بين البحرين وقطر
المشروع لسه يعني بين الدولتين بيدرسوه، بين قطر وبين البحرين. انا طبعا ما اقدر اتكلم عنه الحين، بس هم ايوه يعني انه فعلا المشروع موجود وبيتناقشوا عنه. ايش في
السرعه ما تثبت
استاذ مستر جون توماس حيجاوبكم. خلاص كده.
In relation to the design speeds of 200 kilometres per hour for passenger services, this was based upon a feasibility study, a GCC-wide feasibility study that was done, I think, in 2008. And I think the issue with very high-speed trains, even very high-speed trains, 300 kilometres per hour, because of the distances involved between the major cities, the feasibility study, I think, was showing that the incremental passenger numbers that you would attract from air were relatively small compared to the additional cost of very high-speed rail. It's much more costly to build a 300 kilometre per hour railway than it is a 200 kilometre per hour railway. So the economics just didn't stack up. That is the main reason. But nevertheless, I mean, if we're talking about in UAE, as you'd expect, our main passenger demand is going to be between Abu Dhabi and Dubai. It's an absolute classic case where rail can serve the population of two cities very, very well. And even at 200 kilometres per hour, as long as we integrate with the metro systems, we will be very competitive compared to car. We talk about, Colin was talking about the traffic levels in Kuwait. You know, going along the Sheikh Zayed Road between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, not only is hugely congested, but also I don't feel very safe travelling it if I was travelling it every day. So rail is not only going to have a competitive advantage in relation to time savings, but also in terms of safety. It's going to be a major benefit in terms of reducing road accidents. So even at 200 kilometres per hour, we're pretty confident that we're going to get very significant passenger demand between our major cities.
The problem is not between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Most of the public workers are from the northern part of United Arab Emirates, in Ras Al Khaimah and so on, going all the way down to do their own jobs in Sharjah, in Dubai, and all the way up to Abu Dhabi. In this case, we are looking for a very fast train system. In the same time, we are looking for a reliable some kind of transportation that will take the influx of those guys who are coming from Ras Al Khaimah all the way down to Abu Dhabi. What are you going to do? Especially if you have to start up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but that's not a huge level of demand. The workers coming from the Northern Emirates to Abu Dhabi on a daily basis will be very small. So again, you've got to look at the economics of it. You know, these rail systems are very expensive. So we have to balance the cost against a conventional high speed and very high speed against the benefits that you're going to get. We have to do that comparison.
I can add something. You know, like I think between the GCC country is not highly dense area for population. So from the visibility point of view, I think that freight transport is more visible in the area, and I think that's what the concentration is.
Absolutely right. Yes, that was the primary focus was initially on freight, and we're very confident between us that we're going to generate significant volumes of rail freight attracting it from road.
Thanks. So we've got some time for the lady with the microphone, please. But we do have time for one more question after the lady. So, yeah, please. Is it working? Yeah, it's working.
I'd like to thank you for this. My name is Shireen from the British Embassy in Kuwait, and I'd like to thank you for this outstanding vision that you shared amongst us. And I'd also like to thank the Kuwait Economic Society for inviting me. My question is, we're talking about the implementation and, you know, the steps that should be taken. But my question really is about security. And, you know, with the heinous, you know, situations, terrorist situations that we witnessed lately, how prepared are you in terms of project implementation in the Middle East, which is a very sensitive region at this moment, with that? How prepared are you for scenarios like that? Thank you.
Steve, could you address that?
So far, one network has been commissioned and is operating in Dubai. As part of the team that commissioned that system. There's a lot of work which you don't see going on behind the scenes in terms of preparing the operator. It's part of the safety case, it's part of the government, the regulatory environment to make sure that before you take paying passengers on the railway system, that certain risks, certain incidents that happen are being monitored and responded to. So it's not being ignored. Thankfully, nothing has happened to date. But as I say, it's not ignored, it's prepared, it's planned for, and responsive to various authorities, the different levels of the government and the municipality have gone through training, have gone through preparation, have gone through exercises to deal with various potential incidents.
I think we do, that's a very good question. I think we have to remember that for a public transport system to be successful and to serve the needs of the communities that it serves, it has to be an open system. Public transport systems are open systems by definition. That's not to say that we can't put in measures to protect as far as possible the networks and the people that use them. So a simple example, CCTVs at stations that are monitored, face recognition technology and such like. But will they be 100% safe? No. But don't forget again, these incidents are an awareness of potential future incidents are based upon intelligence. And so what our security services do, if they get specific intelligence, of course you can ratchet up your security measures. You can make your stations more secure. You can have more visible armed police officers at state. There are different levels, and that's what the security, certainly when we're talking to our security services about security at stations and on the network, we've got different levels depending upon the threat level. So there are different threat levels, and then there are different security measures that are implemented commensurate with those threat levels.
I made points in my early presentation there. It's something that has to be addressed in the design. So security, so it's a process that the designers have to be involved with the security forces as a stakeholder. The gentleman would like to mention.
My name is Saleh Yassin. I'm a faculty member at Kuwait University College of Engineering with specialty in traffic engineering, transport engineering, and urban transport planning and management. And I, 30 years now, so frustrated to attend another talk, another presentation on the basics of benefits and disbenefits of a metro system or a mass transit system. In 1988, there was a detailed design to execute in 2 corridors, and I don't know what happened. In 2008, there was a rule. I was involved in a committee of the Council of Ministers that says, Ministry of Transportation, of Communication in Kuwait, go ahead and implement this project without any delays, and I have a copy of that. I felt today, and I came late, I felt I was in one of my graduate classes teaching the benefits and disbenefits of public transport. I would stand and I walk saying that this is going to be not only a beneficial, we need it right now, we need it 30 years ago. And we are suffering so much, and I wish Abdul Dakhil was here. Is he here? Where is he? And I hope in designing this metro, we will not do the same mistakes we did in the 70s of designing the freeway of transport, the freeway system of Kuwait. And I know we chose the cheapest one. All these roads right now are the biggest factor of congestion in Kuwait because they separated all the Kuwait localities or residential areas from each other. If you want to go half a kilometer right now, you have to drive where the distance, or the distance you have to drive 2 or 3 kilometers. They will lead you to an intersection of that freeway, then you come down and go. we really need a metro right now. There is no other solution to our congestion problem. And those details which we talked about, whose benefits, who disbenefit, the environment, these are only classical parts of this metro system. The decision is to go ahead and design what if we don't want to go with that design, which we had already in 2007. Okay? And I wish we had another talk why this project been delayed, not 30 years, which I've been following up since 1977. And there are a lot of documents, and I don't know why we are waiting another 40 years and how long we can wait. Okay. I had a dream, right? In my lifetime, I see a metro system in Kuwait. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah.
There's a microphone coming in. Bashir, could you offer the microphone?
My name is Mohammed Al-Hadba. I'm from Public Authority for Roads and Transport. And our chairman is here as well, Mr. Al-Latif. I thank all the speakers for the valuable information we have. And I agree with Dr. Riyasi from Kuwait University. Yes, we don't have public transport. I was on a visit with my colleague Mr. Al-Dakhil in Dubai, I think 2 months ago. And we have seen their system. I will just talk about 1 minute and then I'll jump to the conclusion. So they said about the number of trips by the public transport in the GCC countries. It used to be, before they built their network, less than 2%. From 800 trips, 2% using the public transport. Now they have reached 20%. In the Western countries, I had a chat, I think, 2 days ago with Ms. Conway when she visited us in our premises. It has to be between 60 to 70% in order to dilute or at least minimize the congestion or the traffic problems. Yes, in Kuwait, we planned too much, we over-planned the project. I'm involved now in a committee with the CAP, Kuwait Authority for Project Partnership. I think the train or the rail will be earlier than the metro, and that's due to a lot of logistic problems in the metro. Metro, they have a lot of problems in the city. The first design, the 4 lines, 160 kilometers has to be reaching the CBD area, but now I think Kuwait municipality have these to stop at the first ring road, which is a major change in that. I think the metro is urgent, should be before the rail, but the rail, because of the commitment with the DCC, they have to start with it. And I think it will be, hopefully, end of 2017, to be tendered for the market. And for the metro, I think it might be delayed a little bit, 1 year more. More frustration, I'm sorry, but we have to plan. I think the metro was needed in Kuwait 20 years ago. I was a member in High Traffic Council since 1989 up to 1994, and we have all the calculations that the number of cars and versus the number of developed roads for sure beating that number. So I give you an example. The 5th Ring Road, when they built it, it has to reach in 2005 150,000 cars a day. But it was reached 3 years after it was built. So number of cars is very high. We have 85,000 new driving license every year, 25,000 Kuwaitis, 60 non-Kuwaitis, which means within 11 years we have 1 million new cars and Kuwait. I think Kuwait will not digest this. I think we should plan, even if we can do in the fast approach, at least we start with 1 lane or 2 lanes. Still, we have to do it very quickly, and I think now maybe the cycle is going to the peak, and then the tender, hopefully the tender for the metro will be earlier than 2018, but I think according to the calculation we have in the studies, it will be in 2018. Thank you, and sorry.
Thank you very much. So, on behalf of myself and my fellow speakers, I think thank you again for the opportunity to present to you this evening, and I think the discussion at the end was quite an interesting debate, if you like, and thank you very much on behalf of all of us.
Thank you.
باسمي وباسم أعضاء الجمعية الاقتصادية أحب أشكركم على حضوركم اليوم والشكر موصول لضيوفنا على مساهماتكم القيمة، وأسأل الله العلي القدير ما قدرنا نفيد ونستفيد ونخلق دائما مضافة للجميع بإذن الله، ومشكورين على حضوركم. شكرا.